producer date right here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Action on the minutes of December 16th.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Adjustments to the agenda?
I have nothing, sir.
Public comment?
Just got a comment. Hi, everybody. Select people. My name is Tim Adams. I'm with the Oxbow Beer Garden over in Welchville. Got my wife Birch, my coworker Matt Delamater, and yeah, we have an exciting possibility here in the town of Oxford, where we've been doing business for almost 3 years now, and love being here. And we've got our eyes on a new property in town, which we actually do have under contract, and we're doing some due diligence. And it's the Welchville Junction building, which is where the Camp Falls Road comes in, meets 26. And we discovered that it is zoned as a village in there. It's this little sliver of a village. Everything around it is all mixed use, but there's just one little sliver of village. And so we were certainly thinking that for purposes, it'd be much better to have the flexibility of the mixed use going. So we wanted to check in with you folks and see what would be the right kind of course of action for us to take to try to potentially see that change.
We are starting the process with the budget cycle and everything else. We could certainly, that could be something I could have the code enforcement officer and the planning board start to look at on having that as a proposal for June, the amendment to the zoning map. Is that the direction that you're looking for? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything that we could get done to make that happen. I mean, it is, there are a handful of commercial units in there, and they're not all full, and certainly it'll make our lives much easier if that change happens. So, certainly time would be of the essence for us, but I understand respect the protocol differences.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, with the ordinance changes, they are brought up at the June town meeting, but they go through a development stage and prior to that. So, I mean, we could certainly have the code enforcement officer and the planning board start to look at that and then see if they can put something together so that in June it could be potentially voted on if it was agreeable. Do you, have you spoken to the code officer at all about this? Or the planning board, either one?
Not the planning board, but we've run it by Kingston. So we've got something going on with it.
Okay.
So I haven't had an in-depth conversation yet, but.
All right. Well, I'll follow up with Kingston tomorrow, and then maybe we can, maybe you could leave your phone number with Beth before you go or something, then the three of us can have a conversation,
Yeah.
get the ball rolling to look at it. How's that sound?
That would be great.
Is that okay with the board?
Appreciate everybody's consideration and help. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Just dropped it off.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
It's a pleasure to see you all.
Yeah.
I need to speak with her.
Excuse me?
I didn't mean to speak for it, I hope that was fine.
Oh, yeah, that's
Good evening.
yes.
Pete LaVerdier, town of Oxford. I come from my home tonight to ask if there's going to be a dam advisory committee set up.
We haven't discussed one.
I had to ask. We have two.
Yes. Something like, yes. I got a call Christmas Eve from selectmen in Poland, and they're getting their budget together, and they wanted to know if they were ever going to be able to have any input advisory committee on the dam operation. So, and I think he was tying it very directly to the contributions that Poland's been making. And if that's, spreads to the next other two towns, it'd be $15,000 a year in tax revenue that we'd be losing. So, my curiosity is piqued, and I thought I'd bring it to your attention. We did have a dam advisory committee. I was on it from the beginning until the end, and that was shut down, I think, just about the time that the dam was being revamped. And I never knew why. I wasn't informed. I wasn't told. It wasn't anything. It was just a fact. So, is it a possibility that we're going to be rejuvenating this, like having two people from each community as an advisory committee?
Why was it shut?
Why? What I remember of it, I mean, I think it's people from Otisfield and.
I mean, I knew there was some controversy, but I didn't know they actually done away with
They
it.
didn't like the direction we was gonna take from the dam. And they felt that they wanted to pull away because they wanted to do the whole dam, not piecemeal. And we felt at that time we should be piecemealing and getting it done, because we couldn't afford to do the whole thing.
In addition, they also wanted to look at joint ownership, and that wasn't the support of Oxford reps at the time, or the selectmen as a whole.
Yes.
But they seem to have a different, they had a different path that they wanted to go.
Was it just Otisfield or was it the other
No,
towns
I think
also?
it was all the towns.
It was all, okay.
Poland, yeah, I think they wanted to say what we did with the dam and that. And they wanted ownership.
They wanted, there was a joint ownership.
Again, I also remember that Poland has contributed to building the dam for numerous years, so.
No, you're right, it's not.
I guess that they decided they wanted to come to the table that maybe they should budget something in their budget to, as the other towns have. So we deal with that.
So would, at this time, not receiving any monies from the other three towns?
Just Poland, I believe.
Only Poland.
No. Poland has not contributed for a number of years.
Casco on today.
Casco does, Otisfield does.
Yeah. But I think Otisfield did this last time around, did they? I think.
Not sure.
So that be checked?
Yeah, we can check. Could you check that out?
So, anyways, I heard from a long-time selectman in Poland, and he was going to bring it up in the budget committee for them, and they go early, because their town meeting is in March, if I'm not mistaken. So, if we're going to get some kind of word back to them, we need to do it 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay?
You want to check it out?
About the contribution?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want me to look at any kind of a joint meeting, or is that something we should talk about more?
We'll talk about that. We'll discuss that more.
We did at the last meeting that we had, we did say that we would set up joint meetings again between the boards
Yeah.
and work on the next phase of that project. So if it is something that we need to.
Okay. Very good.
Just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Any other public comment?
I'm not looking for a job.
That's what I was just writing down.
No. Scratch that.
Appointment of Dana Dean to the Recreation Committee.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Just a quick comment, sir.
Yes.
When you look at the roster, this is the final opening. The other two that are on there that say vacant, they do not exist. So this is the now it's full.
Very
Thank
good. Thank you. Remote meeting policy revisited.
So the board had asked, a couple board members had asked to have this put back on the agenda for further discussion. So it is back on the agenda for further discussion and consideration. So,
I was one of those that asked to have the board revisit this only because, if you watch the news at all, you know things are getting a little, closed up again, so, I just think that, as I said last meeting, is that one of the, unexpected, consequences of not doing a policy was that unless you live in town, have cable, you can't watch our meetings. We don't broadcast them over Teams anymore. So our snowbirds are headed south. That's something we do have some that like to do that. I know days that I can't get somebody to come in and work for me, I would like to be able to do that. At least watch the meeting. But I guess I don't see, I know there's been concerns from other members of the board that we might be able to use it. I don't think that, I believe that the town manager has added some language in there with it. So, I don't know. I don't see the harm in it. I do believe that I hope it doesn't get used, but I think if we are elected officials and if we can participate in it, whether it's remote or here in person, which is preferable, I don't think we should exclude it.
So I read through all of this, but I made the same comment when we talked about it before. I don't think you were here though. But I do not support having this policy if it's going to include executive sessions. Because if you participate from another area other than this room in a closed door setting for executive session, that's the only way I would support an executive session. I would not support, even whoever can't come to the meeting can participate in the meeting as far as voting in a quorum, but not the executive session. That's highly confidential, and I would not support this policy unless something excluding executive sessions was in that.
I could be in support of that as well.
would the board like me to add that language and bring it to you guys for potential review and approval the next meeting?
As long as it takes that piece out.
Yeah, I can do that.
Or add that in it. Add
Add
that
it,
to
right,
the
but I would
policy.
make sure of it.
Yeah,
I understand the intent.
yeah.
Yes. Everybody okay with it? Okay. Approved marijuana business license renewal, Bog Brook Botanicals.
Motion to approve the renewal.
Second that for discussion.
Discussion.
Are there any changes in the agreements? Is this all just a straight renewal? I just seem like there's lots of notes and extras on the packet that.
Yeah, the what you have is the addition of a license holder. It originally was. I keep mixing them up. Originally it was Dennis, and it's added Lance on there as a caregiver. Also, the notes on the top, I spoke to Kingston about that, where he's added this X with medical marijuana cultivation. I guess the application is not up to speed with the ordinance in that sense, and this extra box down at the bottom about medical marijuana cultivation and the amount being $1,000 and so forth needs to be added to the application in order to make it up to date. But according to Kingston, that makes it in line with the ordinance, and he's reviewed it and doesn't have any issues.
So, my question is, if this license was issued to Mr. Sweat originally,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the owner and caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're adding a different owner,
We're adding an additional.
Mr. Person?
He's being added to the business. You can speak up if you want, unless I'm misspeaking here. But
Yeah, so this was one of those original four that we had prior to, so one of the four medical that we had. And back then, we issued it to a property. So Neil Cohen owns that property, and it was issued to that property and by the planning board. That's how it went through. And so when we went to this ordinance, we included medical with retail. And so now this is, it's still in the same building. It's with the same caregiver, but that original paperwork, when it went through the planning board, was all through the owner. So it's really kind of common how they kind of mix it together.
That's my curiosity, is it, as long as it's told appropriate for renewal and non-renew license for a new ownership name. If you own a property and you have a liquor license, for example, and you sell that property, well, that liquor license doesn't go with the property, the new owner needs to get their own liquor license. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page here, that this is
well, according to when I spoke to the code officer about this and following up with that, is that Dennis Sweat, and then adding this other person to the business. So it's the same business. It's just the addition of this additional person. So it's not a new business. That's what it was explained to me. I'll admit.
But is this guy a part owner now?
He is listed as a caregiver.
So our original application, when we went to the planning board, again, it went to the building. Like it was like this building. Because we didn't have all this information. I don't know how much of this information we had. It wasn't the same process.
You say originally it was made up for Neil Cohen?
Originally, it was made out to Sweat, Neil and Michael Cohen, and then Dennis Sweat.
So the three of them.
Right.
and I'm on board with that. But now we have different names on here. So if we renew this year with these two names, and next year they come before us, and now Mr. Sweat's name is gone, and it's just Mr. Person or Mr. Person and somebody else. Now we've changed hands a couple times, and they're still renewing the same license. When I find that hard to believe the state may allow that, and they don't allow a liquor license.
What Dana's saying really is, I'm following 100%, and I have a hard time with that too, with him just bringing this up. To me, this is more like it should be a new application because it's under different ownership. I don't care if it's the same building or not, you know what I mean? If you buy a building, if I buy Caldy's building and he had a license, I'm not buying his license, I have to get my own, doesn't matter what it's for.
And I'm not sure I don't know if there was a sale for it. It's still the same guys in Neil Cohen's building.
And I'm surprised that this year he didn't send a if he's got a license from the state, I'm surprised he didn't send a copy of it.
There should
It's
be a
just
copy
written
of
into it.
that.
It's
Yeah,
just
they
been
would
written
have-
in. Because, I mean, he does have offenses.
So let's do this. I'm gonna have the code officer come and be able to answer your question.
So I think when these come for renewal, not only should the code enforcement officer be here, I think that whoever is renewing or requesting a new application, they need to be here. It's their license that is coming before us. And I think that we need to get into that practice. Just like when we appoint, I was going to say it earlier and I didn't, members to any committee, and I have said this before, those committee members should be here. That needs to be a practice that we follow. But I think that for this, I think it's very important that both the code officer and whoever is requesting this license be here.
Especially in that.
But does the state look at that the same way as they would if someone was selling liquor, or do they look at it different? I mean, I don't know what the ruling is on it. I mean,
That's
it's
why I
something we-
want to see the copy of the license.
Yeah.
well, I guess the license would tell us.
I mean, they, like Adam said, they've added all this stuff on here to comply with the ordinance, but it's stuff added on. Why isn't the application updated? So,
Okay. Any questions?
So you're going to table it then?
Yes. Okay. Disposition of the 2006 Ford F-150 Highway Department.
Currently we have a 2006 Ford F-150 over at the Highway Department. It's their old pickup truck. We're all familiar with it. It's just sitting over there collecting dust. I'd like to recommend to the board that we put that up for sale. And in order to do that, we accept sealed bids, offers on it. I've put together a sample bid package in here. I'd like to be able to put it up, publish it tomorrow on the 28th, open bids, and then potentially on February 3rd, the selectmen can review the bids and potentially award. If the board's comfortable with that, I'd like to move forward.
Make a motion that we give him permission to put it up on.
second.
All in favor? Highway Department overhead door replacement fund.
All right, so recently, the board's aware, we had Safety Works from the Department of Labor come in and do an inspection of our buildings. The great thing about Safety Works is it's not a compliance check in the sense where they fine us for violations. They let us know what the problems are so that we can fix them before we get fined. One of the issues they found is over at the highway garage, that the doors don't have the safety feature that they stop before they squish things when they're closing. So they feel that that's something that needs to be corrected. And we have reached out to, when I say we, I mean Jim and I, to some different overhead door companies. He reached out to 3, only heard back from 2. Robert's Overhead Door, which gave a quote of $13,500, and Overhead Door of Portland, which was $12,993. And that is to replace the doors and with the appropriate ones with the sensors and so forth that would work correctly. I asked Jim why they had to replace the panels and replace everything, and he said that what he was told is these doors are 30-something years old and they can't be adapted to work with the new equipment, basically. So what I'm asking the board tonight is, I understand this is a considerable amount of money, but I'm asking if we can not go through the bid process, whereas there's a limited number of folks that have shown interest in doing the work for us, but also where it's a safety violation. I'd like to get this taken care of sooner than later. And if the board's okay with me moving forward, I'd like to look at the lowest of these quotes, which is Overhead Door of Portland, get on the books to have it scheduled, and get the work done. The Department of Labor has been generally pretty good with us as long as we have it scheduled and planned on. We won't get dinged as long as we're working on it. So that's something that you folks are good with.
Make a motion, we move forward.
Any discussion? All in favor?
And are we okay with me going to the fund balance policy account? Like that?
Sewer connection incentive program, application review.
So this is a continuation of a few months back. We talked about the sewer connection program that we have, and I've worked with both the attorney, I've also worked with Sharon here in finance, and we put together a pretty nice application packet. Some of it is renewed from before, but Sharon's done a great job here with putting together a checklist. Also updated the application to include a credit check for folks, and all copies of this are in there. So if the board is satisfied with the new documents, I just would like the board to bless them, and we'll use these as our documents and process moving forward.
Make the motion, we go with the new application, credit form.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Much better.
Town office architectural design RFP board.
So last month, we opened the bids for the architectural services for a new town office. I should say bid, not bids. We only received one from Harriman for $258,000. And that was to help us from everything from the, selecting the site to designing, developing the design, putting together bid documents, overseeing the project itself, being the general manager of the project. $258,000, I understand, that's a considerable amount of money. But I think that we're kind of in a position as a town that we need to fish or cut bait here. We need to move forward or not. But this bidder is hanging, left hanging. We're almost 30 days out from when, or we are 30 days out from when we originally received this bid. So I just would like direction from the board on where we're going to go. I'd like to see us get this project started. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or thoughts on that, but.
I would make the motion to go with Harriman's. It seems we want to kick this project down the road another time, but I'm pretty sure that at town meeting, at least the one I was at, it was pretty clear that they adopted the plan that we presented to them. They were seem to be somewhat in favor of that. It's going to take some time to get things out, for them to do plans. So I think the sooner we get this started, the sooner we'll be on the road to getting a project underway.
I'll second your motion.
And I would, to add to that, because we're going to go to the next one, is that I would say that we go ahead and tear down the police station, put a temporary building in there, and get out of here. That would be my idea.
So there's two different things.
I'll
I'm
bring
going
it
to take your first one first.
Take it first.
Okay. Which was seconded.
I seconded that first one.
Any more discussion?
A lot of money for a single bid. I don't know if that means that there's somebody else that's interested. I guess that's how you read that, nobody else bid, so.
How many
You can't
engineering
compare it.
firms did you send that up to originally?
We had it advertised for 30 days. I know I personally sent it out to a couple I've worked with in the past. We didn't send it to these folks, they found it on their own. But it was out there on MMA and Facebook and the newspaper for 30 days. And everybody that bid before, thank you, Ben. Which was 3 or 4 folks, other than this group.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Temporary town office location discussion.
So this is a little bit of a takeoff of what Selectman Hunter was just talking about. So as the manager, what I'm running into is that, we get these potential offers that come in, which is great, and we want to look at vacating or selling and vacating this building. And I've looked at, as you see in the attached email that you guys are all aware of, I've looked at potentially doing what they call a mobile temporary office, leasing, not leasing, but renting something that could be put on one of our sites, getting costs and setup costs for that. I've looked at, with the help of staff here, of using cubicles at like the rec center or even over the public safety building, combinations thereof. The problem that I run into is that these options are only available if they're available and for a short period of time. And the listing for the town office is set to expire on January 7th. So my question to the board is, do we relist? Do we relist and look at one of these options so that we can vacate? Or do we not relist and stand fast until a new facility is built? I just think that trying to do all the above, this has been somewhat problematic, that's all. I'd really like to see if we're going to relist that the board allow me to explore and potentially move forward with a temporary location so that the building can be vacant. If we get a good offer, we can sell it, and the logistics of having to vacate at the last minute aren't there. So, any thoughts?
I understand my thought on it before is that, yes, I think we should get out of here. And I think out of the options that you presented was to put a temporary building where the both of these currently stands and run out of there so we don't run into that. The project just needs to move forward and we're not moving forward.
When you're talking about a temporary building, you're talking about some, one of these portable classroom type rental type buildings, or are you talking building a building?
I reached out to a local company, and that's what they like, the portable classrooms, but they also have like portable
Right.
office buildings too.
Right, but I mean, I was just wondering, I thought he said something about tear that building down and build a building over there temporarily.
No, it was going with his option of having a portable building come in for.
Just so happens that pad is almost the exact right dimensions for one of those things, where the old police building is.
Right,
When we went and
pretty
measured.
close, it would work.
It's within feet of the right dimensions. I checked with the code officer to make sure that we wouldn't be violating some setback issues because of the water back there. So as long as we stay within that footprint, then we would be.
And what do you, I know you had some prices, I don't remember, what were they for one of those goals? What was it?
Oh, let me double
Do
check.
you remember what it was?
I've got it right here before I speak. Initial setup and delivery of one would be around $15,000, and depending on the length of term that we decided to, rent it. If we only did 6 months, it would be $1,500 a month. But if we did 18 months to 24 months, it would be $1,090, a month. Of course, we'd have utilities and other, the other things.
There's nothing petitioned off inside.
No, this particular one, if it's still available, had actual offices in it. The only kind of petitions we'd have to do is like for the clerk area, for the public facing, we could put up some of those, just some simple cubicles, but it'd be pretty minimal. So,
Would it sit next to the police station?
On the slab he's talking.
my thought would be,
Yeah,
Take the building
Oh,
out, what it,
okay,
whatever it is
that's what
for
I'm
a slab there.
So you would
I'm
take
not-
the building down and it would
yep, in talking to Jim over a highway, we could remove the old building, which is in pretty sad shape, put this right on that same slab, and we could hook it up to utilities there if we wanted to. And then we would be in close proximity to the rec center where we could have these type of meetings and so forth. And it just seems like that could be a viable option.
So that slab would be big enough, it wouldn't have to be enlarged?
According to the dimensions of this this particular one here, it would be only a few feet short, and in talking to company, they could put footings under it or whatever, it would be fine, as a temporary building, not a permanent.
Do you have the size of what that office building would be?
28 by 56. So,
And you're saying if you kept it for, you say 18 months or 2 years would be 1,009?
Right, 18 to 24 months, it was 1,090 per month.
And 15 up front?
15,000, that's for upfront delivery setup.
Yeah, delivery setup and
Yep.
everything. And then of course you're still gonna have your electrical, whatever else for utilities,
Mm.
oil, whatever.
I mean, I think before, if the board is willing to entertain this, I would want to double check to make sure that this one was still available. You know, because this was from, you know, last time we talked about this was last month before we had some other discussions and so forth. So if you're willing to entertain this, I'll call and I will confirm that this building is still available, and I'll confirm all these things are still an option.
How many offices were there inside?
There was, I don't know that I included that in here. There was enough offices to accomplish what we wanted. It was going to be snugly, but there was a main room on one end, and that's where the clerks and the public would be. Then there was space for assessing and code, and then the manager and the two finance. So there was enough space in there.
I mean, it's worth him checking into it, isn't it?
No, I think so. And bring all the
Information back.
to us so that, let us know if it's available, and because if it's not, then we're gonna have to look at another option, right?
Did you say it's 24 by 56?
28 by 56. So it's basically a big double wide.
Okay.
That would work, what you would do, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're near the rec center to be able to use that meeting room and all that kind of stuff, I would think so.
So are you looking for the motion to be made to give you permission, if this is available, to move forward with this? What do you ask?
Ultimately, yes, I would like permission to move forward if it is available, but if I'm kind of sensing from the board that maybe they'd like to see some more concrete pricing. My only concern is that since it's been a month, that if this particular building is not available and it costs a little bit more, that I'd have to
Don't
come
put
back
them
and
words in
wait.
his mouth.
So I guess what I would say is for you to find out what is that particular building is available, if not what is,
Mhm.
and bring us
Bring it back to us
as
on the
many numbers
20th.
as you can bring us on all these connections and, you know, a total package of what it's gonna cost.
I will do that.
Because it's gonna be a lot more than $15,000 up front by the time you pay everything to get it connected to sewer, electric.
And if the board is interested in that, I will put the effort forth and make sure I have all of that information for you so you can make an informed decision. I just didn't want to go down this rabbit hole if it wasn't going to be entertaining.
Is there, only because, again, if this particular model is available and it suited our needs, is there a way that he can have to say, yes, we're definitely interested in it? So, granted, we're talking a 2-week period, but we are putting in the first year, so we want, you know. Can he have approval to say tentatively, yes, we'll take that so they can, I don't know, whether they can put it on hold or whatever? Pending
Pending
our
board approval.
Yeah.
If what you have here is what you told, if they have what they told you they had, can you just ask them to hold it pending board approval for the 3rd? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I just,
The next meeting, which would be the 20th.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll ask them to put it on hold for us until the board can vote on it on the 20th.
That's good. Okay, time to have report.
Thank you, by the way.
Hewey.
Yes, sir. Medical billing, or we,
What's medical billing first?
okay? You guys had a packet from town manager, from Sean Caldwell, deputy chief. They reached medical billing, reached out to us. I guess we haven't changed our rates in a while, and asked if we wanted to be competitive with everybody else in the area. So we looked into it, and Sean gave you a little rundown. We also would like to add a $150 fee for the non-transport, but we render care on scene. So we can, when we use supplies on scene, we can get some of that money back through the billing process. It seems to be a standard process through all the other agencies, and we're just looking to see if we can adjust our rates. That takes your approval.
So that $150 charge would be charged to where the person you're going to, whatever their insurance was, and it would be handled through the medical billing?
Correct.
And I dare say, Chief, that's a pretty common practice
Yes,
for ambulance services.
a lot of the services are already doing it, and we're just trying to catch up.
The chief has included the fees that he's talking about in.
It should be in your packet.
We should would.
I don't know, Scott, you could correct me from being previous. It's been a while since we've done an adjustment.
Since 2016,
Sure.
That's what it
it
says
says
here.
what it says.
Yep.
You're basically looking at doing a little bit of revenue, which we're doing, but usually, in the past, Sean has, suggested new rates, and that's in business, so I think that's what I would.
Even how busy the rescue's been, I think that it's an expensive service to provide, and I think it would be worthwhile for the board to consider the new rates.
So do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the new rates.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Just real quick, do you have to call medical billing or anything, or just let them know? I don't know what's the process.
We'll take care of it tomorrow. And the chief was here ready to give just a department head update if you're open to that, sir.
Okay.
Like Adam said, the ambulance is busy in the last year, and I don't believe it's all COVID related. Just a perspective, last year, 2020, we did a total of 839 calls to service, 636 of them EMS, and 203 with fire calls. Last year, 21, the department did 1,119 calls to service, 911 of those were EMS, and 208 fire calls. So we've gotten busier. Sure, some of it's COVID, a lot of it's respiratory calls, a lot of it's accidents. We're finding we're going further mutual aid. I've got documented cases of, we've done 14 calls in Paces territory, in Hebron, Norway, Paris, because they're out of trucks, or they're on transfers and they need help. We've been to West Paris doing medical calls. We've gone to Casco, we've gone to Harrison, we've gone to West Paris for fire calls. Everybody's having staffing shortages. So we're going further. Now, not to say we're not having staffing shortages, we're calling help too. As far as mutual aid goes, we called 124 times for mutual aid fire and EMS. We gave 100 times to other services, fire and EMS. So we're busy. You see the reports I turn in every Monday with payroll. You see how many we do per week. You see the cost, the overtime, staffing. That's getting worse. COVID is hitting us. I have 2 out now. I got 1 on overtime tonight. He was the only one available willing to come in. And it's going to put him over the 53-hour mark. I got 2 out on medical leave. I got 1 who's going to be out until the end of March. He blew his knee out, not on duty. So no workers' comp. Others are just being forced to work overtime at their primary job. We are working on retention and recruitment processes. I got one employee that has got some connections with health CNA instructor at the Oxford High School. He's going to talk with her to see if anybody in that class wants to try the medical field, pre-hospital. And we'll do like an earn to learn type thing. See if that works. So we're trying different things on retention and recruitment. The biggest thing, and I'm working with Adam all the time, is how can we pay more? We pay less than any other service around us, north and south. I know we can't compete with Maine Health and the hospital and their wages, but we gotta start looking into something. So, one of the things we looked at is, like the police officers did with the school resource officer. They got a grant. They do that for firefighting. They call it a safer grant. So we're gonna try one of those where FEMA pays 3 years, the town would pick up the 40. Type of thing. We're looking at other options for that. So that's the kind of the gist of that is staffing. I know it's not good to hear that I'm asking for help all the time, but we're trying our best. We will provide an ambulance to you or a fire truck. Sometimes it might be a green one or a red one or some other service. But we will provide care to the citizens of the apparatus, we're okay. As you know, the fleet is getting older every year. The power truck did pass its annual ladder test this year. A couple minor things. We'll have that fixed in a couple weeks. Other than that, we're okay. But again, working with Adam, we're going to start working on a vehicle replacement plan and see how we can move forward getting newer trucks in the next few years. Couple of, I guess, good things we're working on. Grants. We did get the forestry grant again this year. For hose and pagers, we awarded the Stephen King grant for AEDs in all the municipal buildings. So highway, rec, gear, we'll all have an AED in case the event needs one. We are currently working with Deputy Chief Caldwell as the new EMS protocols, which is allowing basics to provide more care than what they normally would. We now can start doing 12-lead monitoring to check the heart out and giving certain medications. New training like that takes a lot of time and practice before we can let them be free and treat patients. And just like you guys were talking about the marijuana facility, I got 5 on my desk right now. I got pre-inspections to do before they come to you. So there's a lot of marijuana coming between growing and cultivating and selling. So we are busy. I mean, delegating some of the Scott's still list on his desk every morning when he comes in. So we're busy and we're doing our best. And me and Adam will just figure this out when it comes flight season, and we'll put that stuff. I think that will. That'll be an increase, but we'll see how it goes.
The Stephen King grant you mentioned for the hose, that's the one that
forestry grant.
Forestry grant, excuse me.
I just got that. That will be presented next
On the 20th, right?
next meeting for approval.
Very good.
Questions?
Do you think we could get for the selectmen to review a pay scale for the fire and rescue personnel so that we know what rates by categories, whatever the categories are, what the rate of pay is?
Right, we pay different rates for firefighter,
Yeah.
different rates for firefighter basic.
That's
I will
what I'm talking
email
about,
Adam
for
to
the
that. He
different
can,
categories.
he can send that right out to you guys.
Okay.
I'd love to.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, town managers report.
All right, so my favorite time of year. This is better than Christmas. That is the budget season kicking off. I know that I threw a couple things at you with the last meeting about the budget calendar, just to make sure you guys are on board. But so earlier this week, I met with the department heads, and they were all presented with their budget sheets, meaning it's a zero-based budget approach, meaning all the line items have $0 in them. It's up to them to build out exactly how much things are going to cost. I'm excited to get working with them on that. They also have been presented with a 5-year capital plan, trying to start small. I want to make this more in the future, but this 5-year capital plan is everything from vehicles and equipment over and under $10,000. That's how it's broken down, as well as facility improvements. So your budget books, when you see them, will include their version of this. There'll also be a master sheet for the entire town that will be similar to that as well. I also have given all the department heads a 5-year goal worksheet that I'd like them to work on. They were all very enthused about that, right, Paul?
I've already finished training there.
And so, the purpose of these things is to get people thinking to the future. And when town meeting says, what are you guys doing? We can tell them what it is that we're doing, not only with our capital and operations, but what we want the departments in the town to be in the future. So, putting a plug in there, we still need to talk about town meeting. We're putting a survey together to put that out like we had talked about, so we'll get some good feedback on that. Between now and February 22nd, I'll be working with the department heads, and we'll start having our budget meetings starting in the beginning of March. So March 3rd is when I will plan to bring to the Board of Selectmen and Budget Committee the draft budget for the town. I know I sound like a broken record. I'm just excited to get started here. I think we're going to see good things. Get a lot more buy-in from the individual department heads than I think you've had in the past. A lot of creative thinking, like Paul was saying with services. Really looking at, is it cheaper to have per diems, or is it cheaper to go different routes? What are the appropriate ways to go to provide the level of service? So I just wanted to hit on those things, and that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. Selectmen items. Seeing none. Signed warrants, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 80.
No.
It's like a big visit here, and I will be following up.
Okay, do I hear a motion to sign?
Motion to sign 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80.
All in favor? Motion to adjourn. Okay,
The stamp issue was